Hey everyone, it's Book of Katherine. Welcome to my channel and congratulations on an amazing Thanksgiving 2018 where you installed the most amazing array of bookshelves. I'm so proud of you. You didn't burn the house down. Well, I don't think you burned the house down, but I didn't hear about anything. So congratulations on that, and you did a just phenomenal job of installing a ton of shelves. I'm so impressed. I'm so proud, and you're just like taking off and finding out all these amazing tools. And since you're doing such a phenomenal job, it reminded me, I was out walking Lila and I found one of these, one of my favorite pieces of hardware, and it reminded me of one of my biggest celebrity stories. One of the biggest celebrities in my group, nuclear celebrity. Everyone knows their name. Everyone in the world knows their name. I met them through a piece of hardware, and I was like, this would be a great story. And it was doing holiday decorations. And since we're in the holidays, and since it has to do with hardware, and since it has to do with Insider Movies, I was like, perfect. In fact, because of this story, it's how I met the person that I do Insider Movies for. So this is like the perfect story where they all meet. So we will do it in this perfect way to wrap up the hardware in a nice part 3, and then give you something to work on this season to improve your holiday, and to improve your hardware skills this holiday season without breaking down your walls any more than you already have. You can get much better with your hammers. You'll get much better with your hammers, and you'll get a bit more toys, and then you'll know what to ask for this Christmas, because you can get a lot of stocking stuffers with the things I'm going to tell you about. So let's move on to part 1, and part 1 is the story. So how did we meet one of the most nuclear people in our group? Because we have a few nuclear, but this is the biggest, not the biggest, but like one of the biggest in our group. But it was the well, basically, this is what happened. So at the beginning, I've told the story a few times. I have to keep retaping it because it's just it's so hard to tell and try to protect privacy. I'm just like, dang it. Like, I really want to protect their privacy. They're just so big. And I'm like, how do I tell the story and protect their privacy? So in like the best nutshell I can do, LA is sprawling. Like, it's really hard to describe in California what LA is. If you say, oh, we lived in LA. LA, if you live in LA, you'll know this. Like, the city of LA is like this big. But if you say LA, it can mean anywhere. If you look on a map, it can mean anywhere from Santa Barbara all the way to just north of San Diego, all the way out past Riverside County to like, I think like Yucaipa or Barstow. That can be LA. Like, that entire, even up to Bakersfield can be LA. That can be considered LA. So it's a huge sprawling area. And within that area is where celebrities can live. They can live all throughout that area. They don't just live in like Bel Air. Like the houses you hear about being sold, like when a celebrity sells a house, you always hear about it being sold in Bel Air. But there are, they own more than one house and stuff, and you'll hear about things, and you'll hear about some things, and usually the things you hear about in the paper aren't really their homes. I told you things aren't reality, so you're not really going to hear about their actual homes being sold on the market. That's all astroturf. It's just for their career, to protect privacy and things like that. So you don't really know where they live. Like, it's not really like that. But celebrities can live in a variety of places. So people don't usually know where they live. At least I guess when I went to college, I guess I knew where some did if you lived there for a while. But only if you live like in the nucleus of like the center of LA. But when you sprawl out, it's not really, you're not expecting to live near anyone. You just know the thing about LA and the thing about California is that the streets, it's not like it is anywhere else in the country. Everywhere else in the country, it will be like, you will know there is like the inner city, and then there's the middle class, and then there's the expensive, and no one's really living near each other. Like, everyone's kind of separated out. And unless you get into like certain big cities, and then it's all the same. Like, the big cities are all the same, but the rest of America has these like things kind of separated out, and then in each community they have a section of like, all of a sudden you hit apartments or something like that. But not in California. California, you never know who you're living next to. Basically, it can be a whole variety of economic status within a few blocks. And you kind of get used to it to the point where you just don't notice it. You just don't notice it. And so before we left California, I had my accident with a huge concussion. Like, my head went through a window And I had a few accidents, but the second, and I'm learning California is really, really risky road conditions. And that's because the roads aren't taken care of. For all the taxes they collect, they don't take care of the roads. If a rain hits, everyone's in an accident. Like, the cops have to leave you. Like, I remember the accident where my head went through a window. The cop was literally like, "Oh, you're alive? Can I go?" Like, I gotta go. There's one for every quarter mile, there's an accident. Like, that's just the way it is, because there's all these, because the roads are just not maintained. I don't know where the money goes. So that's why when the Cox guy was like, "I want to do an audit," I was like, yeah, I love that. Do audits, because where's the money going? Like, now that I'm more aware, I'm like, let's do it. So I'm not even in California anymore. But so now I know it was risky, and so my head had gone through this window, but they didn't say anything. I didn't know to go to my doctor afterwards. I just assumed they would tell me in the emergency room. So basically, remember, I was traveling a lot. My jobs required me to travel just a ton. I was traveling like 2,200 miles a week. And if you hear about musicians on the road, musicians have to travel by bus. When you travel that much, you can't actually fly. You have to travel on the actual road. And I was traveling so much that I had to do it actually on the road. There was no way you could fly. I was teaching in so many different cities so much, so often, it was impossible to fly. They didn't even have flights connecting that often. It was impossible. So I was always driving to all these cities, and I taught in like nearly every city in California, which I was very lucky to do that. But someone finally told me, an amazing person in the community, one of my communities told me, they finally just sat me down and they said, "Dude, concussions, like, if you don't treat your concussion, you have to stop traveling, because if you don't treat it, your percentage, chance of getting Alzheimer's goes up like 80%. Your chance of getting dementia goes up 90%. And he started giving me all these stats of like what would happen if I didn't start taking care of my head. And I was like, what? And I thought I'd already slowed down by like cutting back and only doing certain kinds of, cutting back one job here and cutting back this. No. And he was like, you got to stop everything. That was hard. Really, really hard, as you can imagine, for me to do. And so we put our energy into something we'd never done before. We were like, let's do holiday lights, kind of frantically. We had a home for the first time that had a big yard, a really big yard with trees, kind of a rare thing in California. And I was just sitting at home kind of losing my mind. And the doctor had actually said, you better get a companion animal. But in California, they don't let you keep all the rentals, don't let you, they're like, no way on pets and animals. And I was just like, so I had nothing, and I was just losing my mind. And so they said, go for like, well, they didn't say it, but I was just like, oh, holidays are here and let's just go nuts. Like, I didn't know what to do. My creativity was just losing it. Like, I was used to working during the day and then doing creativity at night. And then all I was doing was consulting by phone. And I was like, my creative side was not being let out, and I was really losing it. And I was writing, I had started writing books by then, but it was not nearly enough to feed my creative side. And so we started doing lights. Well, we had these amazing trees, just these amazing, fantastic trees, and big, we went crazy. And I had the hardware and I was still able to move. Now, by then the illness had started, no, this was before the illness really kicked in. Like, we had a full year. This must have been before it happened, actually. No, we did 1 year of lights before it kicked in. So this is right before I went down, like before the illness kicked in. And so it was, oh gosh, that's right. Oh, that explains it. So because I'm like, how was I able to do that when I was sick? And no, like, because this thing is separate. This thing that hit me was separate. And so, because I had the accident, and then it was a full year and a half before this other thing hit. And so right in between that, someone said, you got to stop. And I stopped. And so I went nuts on the decorations and went crazy and I'm just asking you to imagine my personality in lights. Can you imagine that? Not only that, but our house was at the top of this hill. Like we just happened to be at the top of this hill. Like, I remember when I saw it, like it was the first place we looked at it when we landed where we landed. And I remember it was the first place we looked at, and we drove up the hill and I saw it and I was like, that's the one. And actually it's the same place it was here. That's so funny. When we moved here, It's the second place I looked at. I drove up a hill and I was like, that's it. Gosh, I think I have a thing with hills. Huh. I was just like, boom, that's the one. I want it. So that's it. And so it was on this hill, and then it had this huge like dead tree in front. And so it was great to actually put these on it because it was huge and dead, and we could actually knock this into it. And so we put a strand of lights, and I would just bang this, and my husband would get up on a thing, and we would go together, and we would just climb the tree with ladders, and he would get up there, and then he would lay out a piece of lights, and we'd pick branches, and I kind of designed it. Like I'd sit at the bottom, and we really love working together as a team. And as a team, we kind of designed this tree. And then sometimes we would switch, and I'd get up there and move it, and he'd sit down and go yes or no. Or I'd be like, I'm not so sure. I want to pick. Why don't I do it and you pick? And it was really fun. Like we designed this tree together, and it must have been like a 20 foot tall tree. It was a massive tree. And luckily the people who owned the house or whatever had a huge ladder, and people watched us build it. And all it was strands of lights, red and white, linked together. And so we did a strand of white all the way up one way, and a strand of red all the way up the another way, and then a strand of white all the way up, and just did this. And now that I think it was like an abstract piece of art that just went up and out. I don't know. And then we started doing the other trees. They had some lollipop-shaped trees, and I don't know. They don't have that in California. And like I said, they don't have trees like that in California. And we were like, wow, we can just go crazy with it. And by then that's right. We were able to do it because that was our first time that we had done a Black Friday. We did that Thanksgiving. We did Michael's, and we got all this like great sales on all this Thanksgiving lights. And so we were like, let's do it. That's right. That was our first time. I told you about that Michael's trip that we did for the first time for Black Friday. And we got all those decorations. Well, we got all the lights when we did that. And we even got these round ball lights that are always like $100 each. And we got them for like $10 each. I still can't believe that. And they're all sitting out there because we can't do them anymore. I can't do any of this, which is what you can do. And we got this long light pole. And we got this long pole, and we strung up these lights, and there's another big tree on the other side. There's this huge, massive tree, and we hung up these balls. So there was these big balls hanging out throughout it. Oh my gosh, it was just fantastic. And we just created this huge light show, and we didn't really hang anything on the house. We didn't do anything because we see men that go through and use like a staple gun and go pop, pop, pop. And we didn't want to destroy the house or anything. We were really careful about that. Like on the lollipop trees that weren't dead, we made sure not to like really do any of the cable clips. And we didn't have one of these yet, one of these staple guns where it actually goes like this. Like a staple gun is something where you just press right in, and it makes a gun. You can see where I filmed 2 other videos, and it goes right in. And some people do that, but I find that that's really hard to get out of the house. You really have to yank on it, whereas with one of these, when it goes in, you just take the back of this and you just lift under and pull up. Like you don't have to go all the way into the tree with this. You barely have to go in, and then you just go lift at the end. It's a really easy cleanup. And you just pop, 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 and you toss them in the trash or you reuse them, which is why we found a bunch on the porch. So easy to use these. So easy. And you don't need that many. It's really easy to do holders, and you can do bends and everything. I really love them. And you can use them as a thing to place, and then you wrap it around, and you can make a nice, like you can make it bend. You can make it do a right turn or a left turn or a U-turn or whatever you want with one of these. It's really fantastic. So we just had a great time. Well, while we're doing this, while we're out there in the middle of the street on the top of this hill, this guy drives up. No one's around, like absolutely no one's out, because in California, no one's out. We knew our neighbors, thankfully. Like that was the first time we ever lived in California where we got to know our neighbors. Like we actually got to know our neighbors. It was a surprise. We were like, we're getting to know our neighbors. Like, and maybe that's because we're finally home. Maybe that's why, now that I think of it. But this guy drives up in this like low rider, and he just leans over and he's like, yo. And we're just like, oh, hi. And he's just like, yeah, we're so-and-so's house. And we're like, so-and-so's house. And we end up going in this back and forth exchange of like, yeah, so-and-so's house. And we're like, so-and-so. And we're racking through, because this time we know people in the neighborhood. And we're like, yeah, okay, what are their last names again? All right, what are their last names again? We don't know. Okay, let's think. No, no, no. Dang it, I don't think we know. Maybe it's them down there. No, no. And we're just like, yeah, I don't think we can help you. No, shoot, is it that person? And we're looking at each other and we're asking, go back. No, and then finally we're like, yeah, we really don't know. But they insist, and they're like, no, really, where's their house? And we're like, no, really, we don't know. And they're like, no, really, where's their house? And we're like, no, seriously, no, we seriously don't know. And then finally he just goes, seriously, man, you don't know who so-and-so is? Like, you really don't know who so-and-so is. And he just says the name, and it's like, there is this silence, and then it's like 5, 6, 7, boom. And my husband and I go, oh, so-and-so, oh, and immediately I know what house he's talking about. Like, immediately I know, like, there's only one house it can be. I know exactly what it is. And I'm like, there is no other house it can be. It must be that house over there that we love and die and drool over. Has great taste. It'd be exactly this person's taste and absolutely love it. And and know it's that house. And oh, everyone gets mixed up all the time. It totally makes sense. And I'm like, so I immediately am like, oh, I know where that house is. Didn't know that person lived there, but I'm like, oh, I know where you're going. Okay. So immediately I'm like, oh, go down, make a left, go to it. And I just immediately start giving directions. Except that as I start giving directions and he starts to listen to me, we're both distracted by the fact that my husband, despite the fact that we actually know Hollywood stars, like, in fact, like, my husband's ballroom danced with them. In fact, they line up to dance with my husband, like Dancing with the Stars people, like, for my husband. Despite, he's just the most uncool, like, he can't play, no, just loses it anyway, just completely loses it, and just goes, oh, I thought you meant, and just goes jelly, like, full jelly, and starts doing some kind of, like, giggle dance, turns red, sweaty, and starts doing some, and you thought, and I thought, and you thought, and starts motioning into outer space. Literally, like I told you, we're on a hill. Even though the guy's house is over there, like over there, he starts motioning where no houses are at all, and actually reaches out his arms and starts pointing out like this, like starts pointing. Yeah, uncool. I love him so much. I love him so. This is why I love him. And this is why they love him. This is why they love him. Because they just there is no, like, there. Oh, I was watching Brigitte Gabrielle today, and she was doing a Rubin Report interview, and she's like, people know if you're genuine or not. And I think that's also why this guy stopped and talked with us. Like, I think if there are other people in the neighborhood, I know that this guy would have asked us, because I was thinking in my head, like, when we went on, let me finish what happened. So he goes on, and he goes jelly, and this guy and I are just, like, waiting. We're like, just wait it out. And he's just like, yeah, I know what house you're talking about. Go down and make a left. Like, just picks up right where I was and just, like, goes right in as, like, and I'm talking, like, says the exact words that I said. Like, I said that we finish each other's sentences. We always finish each other's sentences all the time, like in the doctor's office. Like, sometimes I look at him and we just go, we don't even have to say the words. I swear to God, he said exactly the words I said verbatim. Like, verbatim, but he didn't hear me. He didn't hear me at all. He just, and the guy was just like, okay then. Like, so, and he just comes back, boom, picks up and goes, yeah, go down, make later. I know the house you're talking about. And boom, and then the guy's like, right. And he was really cool about it. Like, he was super cool about it. He was super, super cool about it. So we end up having, like, this great conversation. And anyway, so the long story short is that ended up, that whole thing and the lights and the conversation led to us actually having a relationship with this guy over there. Like, it ended up, like, connecting us with the person in the house, and then that person connected us with the person that is now the guy from Insider Movies. Like, they got to know my books, and like while I was writing, like before I was even done writing, like with all of my books, like I knew them halfway through all of my writing. Like before I was even done with all of my books, they were like into the books, they were like into the middle of it and sharing it and things like that. So other celebrities, like I would say halfway, like half of my group is like part of that because of them, like them sharing and so like literally the guy that's the foundation, the reason I did Insider Movies, the only reason he even like knows who I am is because we were out doing holiday lights, banging these, because a guy got lost on our street and was like, hey. And we were like, yeah. You know, like we didn't get scared that anyone was in our neighborhood. Like we did, and we handled it genuinely. I think that's we didn't handle it cool. Like we weren't cool. But as Brigitte Gabrielle said, she said, you can tell if you are genuine, if you come from a place of love. And that's where he came from. My husband was jelly, but I mean, we were good people. We were good people. And the guy was just like, you know, what I can tell you is like, there is our holiday lights told them a lot about us. Like that was part of what ended up being a big part of it, was what we did, the way we loved the neighborhood, like the mayor and everyone was coming, and what we did and how we loved the neighborhood through the holiday lights. Because I couldn't go out there and do my work, I had to do it some other way. And because I did, and because I did that, and because we were loving to the guy that came and needed help, and because we were really good to him, and because we were like, yeah, everyone gets lost, and it was a difficult way for him to get there, and we did describe it well, and the way we were to that guy, and then the way we did our lights and everything, and there are things that, and because I'm boss and I knew how to handle it afterwards, and I want to do a video on that, on how to become a star and help you guys like know how to navigate the realm, like know the pitfalls and know what to avoid, and like know how to handle situations like this, and because it can be a missed opportunity too. Like we could have handled it poorly and missed the entire opportunity. But honestly, if we weren't out in the street and if we didn't know hardware, you know, if we didn't know hardware, and this never would have happened. And we also did Halloween lights. Like we did, my husband was really into like the happy jack-o'-lanterns. Like we ended up doing, like the next year we did like purple and the orange strands, and did like happy, like all the happy jack-o'-lantern. We did like Disneyland, because Disneyland does these really happy themes with, and we put big candy corns like on the tree, like these big huge candy corns, and we made it all like really sparkly, like a really happy positive theme that made it kind of lit up the neighborhood and made it more safe. And they said they had more trick-or-treaters that year to make it a much more safe environment instead of a scary place that was dangerous. Does that make sense? Because you want it to be safer. You want it to lean towards the celebratory instead of the dark. And I understand that better now. I understand that better. And so they were really devastated when we left. And you know what that also led to? The fact that we did that. There was a lady up the street. She came down the street when we were leaving. Actually, not when we were leaving, but when we were leaving. And she left. She came down way from up the street, and she came and left my husband this huge box of miniatures. Those really expensive miniatures, like the Department 56. And my husband really loved those, but you know, by that time, we were just starting to lose our wealth from medical bills. We had wealth, which is why we were on like the top of the hill and everything. And we were just starting to really lose our wealth to the medical bills. And boy, so we had just given up all of that stuff. We had just let it all go. And right as we had done all of that, she came with this massive box, like this massive, massive box. And she was like, here, because I know you'll love it. I know you'll take good care of it. And she's right. And he like got back everything he had just sold off. Like he had just gotten back everything he had just sold off in miniatures. I told you he's like a freak. Like his family was really, really into that stuff, which I apologize to those of you who are into it. I don't understand it. My house was literally painted gray. Literally, like the color of Alcatraz. The color of, they had an interior designer come in and paint the walls the color of Alcatraz. By choice. I still can't believe it. It took me like, you have no idea how many years it took me to figure that out, to figure that one out. I just still can't believe it. I was just like, so yeah, no little miniatures in that house. No. It took me going to remember how I said I got other parents that I said to help me out when I wanted to choose somebody? That's because I realized later on, their house had like a worm. It was not painted the color of Alcatraz. I figured that one out. And that's what you do. You figure out what you want and who you want to be like, and you take advice from them, and you go towards what you want. And it's really, really good. And I'll end. So anyway, let me go through these hardware things. I know this is all over the place, but I've taped it 3 times, and so I'm just going to have to keep going. So let me show you some of these hardware things so that you guys can go ahead through your holidays instead of breaking down your walls. Since I can't do it anymore, I'm too sick, I'm too disabled to do it, and I can't create things of light anymore. So what I do instead is I do YouTube channels. So you can always spread as Brigitte Gabrielle says, fight for freedom. And people tell if you're genuine, if it's from a place of love. And man, that's the lesson I learned this year, was about love, is that no matter what, color, creed, faith, race, whatever party we come from, the thing that we all share on, at least on my channel anyway, and when I ask you to support me or send me your kind words or your kind thoughts or your prayers, whatever it is that you send me, I realize the defining thought, when you lift me up, because I get better. I do. I actually get better. There are times where I can't walk, and then I ask for help, and then you make me walk, or it's really, really difficult and I really am down, and then you send me something, and then I am it literally just drives me up, and then I figured out that the thing you all share is love, and so you can share that through lights and also grow. Like, that's one of the things you can do, is you can grow through and show your genuine, heart, and grow your own personal skills through a little, this is the cheapest thing in the world, a little 2-nail cable clip and a little hammer, and it's the easiest thing, or a big hammer. You can get that wonderful hammer that I recommended on Twitter. So this is one of the things that I do in my basement. This is called this is a spice rack, basically. So it's not hung up because I started hanging them and then I got too sick and I can't do it anymore, which brings me to a very interesting thing. I got too sick and we had to hire a handyman, and then our handyman retired and there were no men left. Like, that was it. Like, no handyman left. Like, we got one kid, and then that kid got taken by a big company in the area, and that's it. No one left. There's no one left to do it. No one knows how to do it. There's a few handyman left, and they're overworked. They have too many people on the list. They just can't get to anybody. Like, they just cannot. They end up staying in the main town, and we're like out in the country. So no one will travel out to, and that's ridiculous. It's the same way with housekeeping, like all the jobs that make good money with your hand. I think Dick Morris just did an analysis, and he said that blue-collar workers, which are people who work with their hands in manufacturing and handiwork, he said they now earn more money than white-collar workers, which are things like software and engineering. They just pass them up in money. And that's things like this. If you guys are installing, if you're a natural and you did it the first time out, if you watched my video once and was like, that's easy, and went and hung a shelf the first time, after watching my video like once or twice and just spackled and hung a shelf, then you're a natural at it. You're a natural at it, and you should go into being a handyman, because it's so easy. It'll be so easy for you to be like playing with toys and having fun. You're a tinker toy person. You will have a blast. Or go into like engineering, like the electrical engineering with the walls, and do like work with a electrician and stuff like that. You'll have so much fun. And handyman will take you on. They need somebody to take their calls. Like you can just attach onto their business and they'll train with you. You go on the jobs with them. You learn on the job with them. You learn all the little things. And then what they do is when they get a call that they can't handle, they'll hire you out. And then you work at half their wage. And then after a while, when you get really good, after 6 months, you ask for a raise. And then after that, you ask for a raise. And then after a year, you go out on your own. And then you have your own business charging the same rate. And then boss, you have your own dang company. That's why I say, who the heck needs to go to public school? Most of our presidents didn't go to public school. I saw a kid the other day, went to a thrift shop, and he's just like this 8-year-old kid or something like that. And this is one of the things I will tell you. I'm just going to say it because I know it's going off on a tangent and I'll regret this later. But this is one of those things where you fight for yourself. You fight for the value of yourself. Remember those little trees that we had in the house that you saw last year? And they're just like these little trees that we were hanging on to. Well, these are things that you fight for yourself. This is ways that you fight for yourself. And they're these little trees, and they just had it. Like they're these 2 little itty bitty trees, and they had just had it. Like the cats had they're not normal cats. They had just run them over and they had started yellowing and they had started to kind of smell, and we'd had them out because we kept them out longer than normal. Like I told you that in the video. I was like, we don't have it. Like I had gone through a huge procedure. It took more than 2 months to recover and we literally couldn't get it down. We didn't have a nurse to take it down. Like we just literally couldn't. So they were out way longer than they should have been, right? And so when they're just ready to go, it is hard to throw that stuff away. It is hard. You kind of want to hold on to it and you want to stick it out. And, there's especially people who were raised by World War II people. You want to keep going or raised in a house like Alcatraz or whatever. You don't want to let it go, but you have to fight for yourself. You have to fight for your value and be like, I'm worth more than this. I am not worth a yellowing tree. I'm not going to turn it and hide the yellow. Like I am worth more than that. Even if it means I don't have a tree next year, I'm worth it. And we did. We were like, it's over. This is done. Like I'm worth it. And we threw them out and we're like, even if we don't have it next year, the things in our house will be quality and we will treat ourselves the way we deserve to be treated. And that's just the way it is. Like that's just the way it is. Like this is our worth and we're going to treat ourselves exactly what we are worth and we're not going to accept less. That this is just the way that it is, right? Because what you surround yourself with is how you end up treating yourself. It affects your mind. And then we go into the thrift store yesterday and what's there? A huge Christmas tree. Gorgeous Christmas tree made out of wood, vintage Christmas tree for $18. Gorgeous, huge, full size, not small. Not small, not a dinky tree. And why can we fit it? Why can we fit it? Because we threw out those other 2 trees. We have room for it now. And it'll be the first time we had a full-time tree in years. In years. And yeah, it doesn't have lights. And yeah, it's fake, but it is a tree. It is a tree. And I'm like, we wouldn't have even looked. I wouldn't have thought about taking it if we hadn't thrown out the other 2 trees. And that's what happens is when you fight for yourself, then it comes around and good things happen to you. Do you know what I mean? Like you got to fight for yourself. And I was like, I just knew that the only reason that I knew this tree was meant to be, I was like, how the heck can this be $18? There's no way it's worth $18. Like this thing is worth, it's at least, because it was vintage. Like it's vintage, good freaking, this is not cheap. It's really, really thick and gorgeous top to bottom, no gaping holes in it. Really, really nice tree, not dusty, not basically from a house that like in the area that, from a wealthy family that just probably passed on or whatever. And they just were trying to get rid of it and donated it. Wealthy families donate all the time. The kids don't want it. And you're just there at the right place in the right time. And I was like, that wouldn't have come our way if we had not, and we were looking because we let the other go. Do that. Fight for yourself and good things come around. So I'm just saying, try to do that for yourself. And you'll notice like it comes back around to you, like fight for yourself, fight for what you're worth, even when you're really strapped, like even if you're really strapped for cash, because we were just like, then we won't have anything for Christmas this year. We will have no Christmas decorations and that is okay. That is okay. We had a great Christmas last year and here we are. And maybe we won't have lights on it, but boy, it'll make a difference. boy, it'll make a difference. Like, it doesn't matter because it feels really good. I don't know if that makes sense. I know it might sound sad to you, but it is not sad to me. Like, it is absolutely amazing. I'm so excited because you just see it and you're just like, oh, it's so big. It feels really, really good. So, oh, but there is this little kid in the store, and he's just this little kid, and he just was like ready to help. And he was just like, yeah, let me help. And I was like, oh, aren't you little, like you're 8. And he just was sitting in there like this little baseball cap on. And he helped. No one else in the store did it. He helped. And the lady that was with the store was like, yeah, he comes in with his mom. And when she shops, he helps out. Turns out he's a homeschool kid. And he goes around and helps the people in the store and helps them out to their car. And he just lifted up the thing and just waited in line with us, did all this stuff. And I was like, this is a future store owner. And he was very industrious, a future store owner at 8 years old, helping women out in the store, helping shoppers out in the store. Because he's homeschooled, he's out there getting real world experience, like touching things. And I told him, I said, you know what? You're already ahead of the game. I said, most presidents didn't have public school education. They had very little public school education. And he looked like he'd been hit with the frying pan. And I was like, oh, his mom's probably going to kill me for saying that. But oh well. But he just was like, and I was like, yeah, well, I can't keep my mouth shut. But I was just like, yeah, think about that. I said, I own my own business. And I was like, you are doing great things. Thank you so much for this. And I shook his hand and the whole thing. Yeah, treat kids like little adults. You respect them. Give them whatever respect they give you. Talk to them like little adults and everything. Don't give them things beyond their years. Like, don't give them adult issues. But you just talk to them like an adult because they learn about English through you. And that's another thing. If you ask them questions and they just mumble, expect them, keep talking to them until they give you the full answer. Like, I see parents do that all the time. They ask questions and they just take a garble and they keep going past the answer. I'm like, no, expect the kid to answer you, or else the kid learns that you're not interested. Like, if you accept a garble, it means you're not patient enough to hear the answer. And the kid learns that their words are not valuable enough for you. Wait enough to get a full answer out. Be like, I'm waiting. What is it that you want to say? Give me your full response. Wait for the full answer of their question. So that's a big holiday gift you can give them. So anyway, I use spice racks, and then I put in that's what I do. So because we don't have a handyman around, which you guys can make good money doing, and that kid is going to have his own business. I can tell he's going to be amazing. So he's already ahead of the game. He doesn't need to go to college. He'll be just fine making more money without student loan debt. He won't be $80,000 in debt when he's a kid and he'll be way ahead of the game. He'll own a home before any of us did. So anyway, so you just get one of these metal things. This is actually a knife. This is actually a metallic knife. What is it? I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. It is a magnetic knife holder that I'm using, but you can get spice racks that are magnetic, but I just got this because it was for a separate kit. And these are little IKEA ones. I pulled these out from a separate IKEA kit for spices, and then I just put in all little knickknacks. These are drywall screws, but there are other kinds of screws. And then you hang it up on the wall, and I have it in the basement. These are other kind of screws that I've fallen in love with lately. These are interior wood screws. So wood screws look like this. There are different type of screws. There's all different types of screws, and there's even numbers. The screws have different numbers. Like this is, what is this? This is there's all different types of screws, and I didn't tell you the types of screws I was using. I haven't learned them all, but this is like a 6 by 1 5/8 inch. So they literally break down these screws into how long they are and then how wide the head is. Like, they break it all down. You can really break down what kind of screws you're getting. And I'm still not there because I'm not, I don't work in, I'm not a handyman, and I'm not woodworking, and I'm not in construction. That's the other thing. Construction, guys, if you own a construction company, which is if like you want to do this and then manage it, construction guys make the most out of all. Construction is big business. Big money. Construction. Big. You see those guys on Dr. Phil with 6,000 square foot homes and 4 wives. They're in construction. So know how to use these, know how to file, fit codes and everything like that. And the wives, if they know how to handle construction, know how to handle a drill, you can work a construction site and keep guys on task and everything like that. The guys are like, oh man, don't get a woman on because she keeps them on task. So, But there are men and women teams that work together on construction all the time. They make the best teams. It's absolutely incredible. And then there's some full all men sites. It's just, if you can do really, really well. So for yourselves. And then if you get one of these guys, I like the vintage kind better. They're all metal. I love them so much more. They're much lighter touch and they do a great job. But this is like the newer kind. They have all sorts. Just make sure you get the kind. They have, like, when you go to Home Depot, you see like a million of these lined on the wall. Make sure you can't just grab any kind. These are the staples that go with it. You can't just buy any kind of package of staples. You have got, because like, see, it's just a package full of staples. You can't just buy any kind. Like, you can for staplers, but not when it comes to power staplers. Like, you can't just buy any kind. You have to buy exactly the kind. This little blue label, you have to buy exactly the kind that goes with exactly this. It'll tell you like exactly what it needs. And then you got to get exactly this. And you can ask a store clerk to help you. Be like, make sure it matches. Make sure it says what stapler it'll go with. Like these 3 staplers are what it matches. Make sure they match up. But you're of age. Anyone of age can use this. And just make sure you're safe with it. You can wear safety goggles if you want. I don't, but... and then the final thing is I'm going to give you a little treat here. If you go ahead, and the reason why holidays are great and the reason I recommend them for you to grow in your hardware skills is because there's all sorts of assembly things that go into doing holiday lights. There's all sorts of assembly required, not just stringing lights and using hammers and nails and all that kind of stuff to assemble all these things and all these designing things and climbing ladders and all the stuff that you do. But there's also all these assembly kits that you get to learn about assembling, because eventually, like my next step, I'd really love for you to, what the next thing is, everyone needs to know how to do a shelf. And then the next thing that everyone needs to know how to do is build a 3-shelf bookcase. Everyone needs to know how to do a 3-shelf bookcase. And then that's it. Like, you kind of know how to do everything you need to know for the rest of life. Because if you know how to do a 3-shelf bookcase, then you'll definitely know how to do, you know, a 5-shelf bookcase. You'll know that'll be easy. Like, everything else is easy from there, like a 3-shelf bookcase. But in order to get to a 3-shelf bookcase, you kind of know, just do the holiday lights things. And also you can get paid for doing other people's holiday lights. People totally pay you to do that as well. That's why there are signs out there. So like, help it, we'll, you know, hire us to do holiday lights. But I'm about to give you a really big gem on doing holiday lights that you guys are really, really going to love. So donate down below. Please donate down below, because I'm starting a million careers here. You guys know I'm starting a million careers here in trade. You guys are about to make a ton of bank and save a ton on student loans. You can just drop out of college right now. Save yourselves on alcoholism. Save yourselves on student loan and student debt. And just go out there and earn that money, baby. Earn that money, baby. Earn it. Candace Owens was just saying, she was like, you have no idea how many rappers and musicians are actually conservative and they just can't say it because they get into the business and they learn it has to take conservative principles to be successful in the music business. And I was like, oh, that explains a lot of the videos that you see. Like, I shared a certain video about the rappers talking about Trump, and they did all these interviews talking about Trump and how they all you'll have to look for that video on my Twitter feed or whatever. But I was like, oh, that explains that video, because I was like, that was a confusing video for me at first. And then she was saying, like, I've met all of them and this is what they're saying behind the scenes. And she said, I knew Kanye would be the first one to come ahead and actually say what they're saying in the background and say it in the foreground. I thought that was really interesting. So you're going to have to know how to assemble, like, all of these, like Christmas, for example. Let me give you a great example. The deer, like the deer that go out in the yard, right? Like all these like deer that go out there, so my point about that with the rappers and everything like that is that you don't want to get into the debt cycle. If you go out there and do the hard work, all the hardware and everything like that, you'll earn money and you won't be in debt. You know what I mean? Like it's a cash business. You'll have to pay taxes, but you won't be in debt to the banks. You do college and you'll be in debt to the banks. So I'm saying, if you're a natural at this, and if you really love it and if you love creating, it's totally a great route to go. And if you want to do both. Do this on the side. It's a great way to earn money on the side, while you're doing college, if you really want to do college. But this is something to have for the rest of your life. And I'm just saying, everyone is out there looking to hire. It literally is a huge job market that makes great money. That's all I'm saying. So, so when you do things like assembling deer, like the light deer and everything like that, some people don't like doing it because they're like, oh, if the wind comes, it blows the deer apart. And here's a trick that I do. Like, our deer finally died because a sheet of ice fell on it, and we were like, okay, it's over. So, but I kept it going, like the lights died after a few years, and then I wrapped white lights around it to keep it going. I was like, keep the deer going, keep the deer going. I got it for my husband for Christmas. I told you he's a big Christmas buff because of what his family did to him, like did something to him, so he's really into Christmas. Like I said, like when he got those miniatures, I was like, you got miniatures. But they make him so happy, and then I get really, really happy, so I'm like, go for it. Like, you know, that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll try and find the miniature box, and we'll put those around the tree. Who needs lights when you got a little miniature box around it? Oh, yeah, that's amazing. So I know we have lights somewhere, but it's the fact that we can't assemble it. You know what I'm saying? Like, see, we need a handyman guy to come and do the lights. We need a handyman guy to come. We need to get you here. Go ahead and donate, and then somebody get into the handyman business out in our area, and then we'll be able to be... We'll be all set, right? Then we'll have Christmas lights in the house. So here we go. Go ahead and do this around. So what you do, isn't this great? So what are these called? Assorted cable ties. That's what's so great. Cable, all this cable equipment that were made for phone, actually made for phone cables and TV cables and electrical cables. Man, they come in way handy when it comes to holiday decorations. Big time. I use them for so many things. I love utilizing them for a bunch of things. So what you do is you take the joints, like of all those animated things, all the cages or whatever. If you have a joint, they only give you like this. What they do is they give you the joint and they're like, here, put the joint together and just slide this metal piece into a hole and it'll stay. Pfft. Yeah, right. The wind comes out and the little thing goes jiggle, 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 pop. And then the leg folds and then it's all over, right? So what you do is you slide it in, and then there's like these two, it'll have the two metal pieces. There'll be a bunch of metal pieces. You'll see it when you get these joints together. There's still a bunch of the metal deer. It's still together, like touching parts all together. It's just you're fitting it. It's just doing this one little hole. So you just take those metal parts and you take this cable tie, and what you do with these cable ties, and you can use this for a bunch of different things, but there's this hole right there, and you just take this end and you slide it in, and you hear the sound. Let's see if you can hear the sound. Hear that sound? And it has little nudges, like little, see that? Little things like that, and that makes sure that it doesn't slip back. So what you do is you pull it. Oh, shoot, I did the wrong side. See, so it's got to be on the right side because they do it cheaper now. It's only one side that it works. So, and then you pull it and it makes the sound. Hear that? It's like a zip tie. I know you have these for your electronics. You do them with Velcro. You can use the Velcro ones too. And then you just do that and you put that around the two metal parts. So you take the leg and you take the top and you just put this around the little parts. And then you just clip it off. You just, where is the scissors? And then you just snip this off. Go ahead, clip on off. And no one sees it. Like, no one sees it on the deer. This just blends into the background. It just blends into the dirt. No one sees it, like on this white caged deer. And what happens is that this holds, like, right next to this part right here, and it holds this metal together. So even though it jiggles, this holds it together way better than this. And what happens is you put one of these on each of the joints that you've assembled together, and the deer will never come apart, ever. Like, we had it for like 5 years, and the thing never, ever came apart. The zip ties just held right together. And all of the things that you assemble will never, ever come apart. They'll never, ever come apart. And there are some fun things that you can have. There are some great cutouts that you can do. Like, one of my favorite cutouts, we did one cutouts once that have never, ever, they've weathered every storm. And those cutouts were made out of boat siding. Like this, it was a company in Florida, and they had this like weather siding, this like boat siding. And I forget what it was. I don't really remember what we have it because we haven't had it out for so long. It was like some Santa thing or something like that. And like Santa and his reindeer. And it was just not foam, but it was like really, really hard. And it's what they use to like patch up boats like that go in the water. And man, you can stick that out there. And in California, it didn't matter. But when it came to out here, it would just, we thought it would be bad. We're like, oh shoot, we're out here. And I'm telling you, like, no matter what storm, no matter what rain, we're up on the side of a hill and it'll just be like, rah, rah, nothing, because it's made to be in the water. So there are some cutouts that are really, really great, and you can put them out there and then stick a light. Like we have like little lights, and you have these great setups. Like it really teaches you a lot if you go in the lawn and garden section of your hardware stores. And I really recommend going in the smaller hardware stuff. Things are so much cheaper in the smaller locations. Like Home Depot is more expensive than a lot of your local hardware stores. Like if we go to our Ace Hardware or something like that, it's cheaper. Like we go to the small ones, we're like, we'll get things to hold wood or something, and it's way less expensive. We're like $11, and a lot more of it's made in America. So we found that the local hardware stores, the smaller ones, are usually way, way, way less expensive than Home Depot. So you should check that out. You'd be surprised about the prices. So, and then Home Depot has great things about drilling and testing. You can test drills, and I gave you some resources to look up drills. If you're looking for Christmas gifts, I highly recommend doing a drill, your first cordless drill. It's a great investment because that's usually about $100. A good cordless drill that'll last you a good 20-25 years. That's really good. The only thing that you'll have to replace, usually get 2 cordless batteries so you can switch them out when one dies. You want one to switch in. So usually if you ask for it, ask for 2 batteries that come with it. It comes with 1, but always ask for an extra to come with it because it'll die and then you'll be like, without a drill, you want a second battery to come with it. The second thing I recommended was this Vaughan steel hammer. Like it's some kind of strike hammer, steel strike hammer, velocity hammer, and it's 17 ounces. But when you strike it, it's only like $20. But when you strike, it strikes with the force of a 32-ounce hammer. So if you have weak arms, that really, really helps. And then the third thing I recommended was Swiss Army knife. And Swiss Army knife comes in like everything. You need a Swiss Army knife. Everyone needs a Swiss Army knife. Those things have scissors on them. They have toothpicks on them. I can't tell you the number of times we've needed it just for the toothpick. Oh, it also has like tweezers. We have needed it for tweezers. I cannot tell you how much you need that thing. We have it by the side of our bed, like both sides of the bed. And then we have it in both cars in the glove compartment. We have it on both of our keychains. We have like a pink one for me. We have a breast cancer one for me. We have a thing, which now I know, but it would... there's just all these different things. There's one in a card. We have one in our go bag, and I'll be going over that. Every car needs a go bag so that you can take off when you need to and be ready to stay at a hotel at a moment's notice. I'm going to be going over that so that you can go, because I think after Christmas, everyone should go on their own road trip and go see the world. So we did a road trip once. We just took off out of nowhere. We took off after Christmas, and we did 7 states in 7 days. We called it our wild ride. I believe that was our last road trip before crossing the nation, and I am so glad we did it, because I didn't know how sick I was going to get. That's why I say live it up when you can. And if we can do 7 states in 7 days, you can fricking go out there. And man, our windshield cracked on the second day. Rock hit it. We just kept going. I remember we hit this one state, winds got to 80 miles per hour. We had to get off the freeway and do side things. But it is a very different experience when I'm able to sit there and talk with you and I really noticed the difference when I sat there and did Clean the GOP and I went through the 50 states. I was able to tell you, when I was able to talk to each of you, I knew your states. I could say, like, I know your states. I remember every state is so different. Nebraska was very different from Colorado. And, Boulder, Colorado is different than Colorado Springs, is different from the grasslands. And Amarillo is nothing like Houston. And you will find places in the nation that match you and your personality in ways you can't imagine. There's songs about America, and you need to learn why they exist. You won't understand them. Like, we didn't understand a ton of Christmas songs. We didn't understand them until we moved to the East Coast. And then we experienced seasons. And we were like, oh, now we understand all these Christmas songs. We didn't know we didn't understand them. Suddenly, White Christmas, totally new movie to us. Whole new movie to us now. Because we lived in seasons. That changes everything. And the nation will change to you because there's what they tell you it is. And then there's what it actually is. And it is America the Beautiful. You need to see it and touch it for yourself. And I would think that you should do your own wild ride. But in order to be prepared for that, it is going to be imperative that you get out there and actually do some handiwork for yourself and go create something. And I don't care what you create. You can create a Halloween Christmas if you want. You can create you don't have to do Christmas. You can do Hanukkah. You can do Kwanzaa. You can just create a light. You can just create... But create, what? We did do Halloween and we saw a lot of dark. Why don't we do something for Christmas? And we had to talk about the dark. And Pick Monkey does 6 palettes of dark. So why don't we do something that I can tell you from firsthand experience what it did for that neighborhood when we, out of desperation, did lights. I can tell you the neighbors, what it did for them. How important it is to turn on lights. And remember to add timers, like all the lights need attached. You'll learn a lot about electricity and timers and how things go together. Make sure you get extension cords. It's really smart. You can go to the cheaper stores and get some cheap extension cords that are green that go in the grass to go out to all the trees. Some like outdoor extension cords, start with that, and then the trees you can use normal extension cords on the trees, but what goes in the grass should be like outdoor extension cords. They're green and they're heavy. And you can get cheaper ones at things like Big Lots or Ocean State Job Lots or things like that, and you can get nice thick ones and see if your family can help you with money on that. That'll be bigger. See if they'll go in with you on the investment. But those will last you forever. Those extension cords don't wear out. Those will never wear out on you. They are long-term. Or actually see if your family already has those, because we had separated from family by then. We were starting from ground zero. So yeah, or see if you want to get together with the neighborhood and do it as a community project, because you can put cones out in the front and make sure nobody parks there and it protects, and then people start driving by like they did for us. So, but put timers on those, put timers on the outlets in front of the house. And what will happen is the timer will turn on when dusk, it'll turn your lights on when dusk happens, when the sun starts to go down. And then if you set it for 8 hours, it'll leave the lights on for 8 hours, and then everything will go off automatically after 8 hours or after 4 hours or after 6 hours, whatever you want. And then that will really save on your electricity bill. So it's very important to get yourself a timer and make sure that timer is kind of protected and not in the way of sprinklers or anything like that. If you're in California, it's the weird, odd thing of having sprinklers and lights. So, yeah, just try it. Try. We did Halloween and we did that. Maybe try this and get your hardware skills on and learn the difference. You have done screws, now do nails. Because let me tell you, you would believe the creativity and what you'll learn and what skills you can learn from creating a holiday wonderland. You have no idea. And what you can create on your trees just with those poles that lift up into the air, that you can get those poles, and those poles will last you a lifetime as well. So, and there are clamps that you can go onto the house that you can do lights on the house that you don't, hurt the house. They have clamps like that easily. And you can just learn so much, and those skills will last you a lifetime. And then if you love it, you can go into a job with it and make buco bucks. So, but focus on just having a great Christmas and playing, like changing your physical world and create a wonderland that for us, we didn't ever want the lights to go out. We had a hard time ever putting the timer on. Because the whole house felt like it was lit up. And I didn't know it. Maybe it's because I was getting sick. But my mood was just happy when it was all red and white lights. and it just lit up the sky. So it just, and then now it lights up my life because it led to two men that still change my world on a daily basis. They are two of the biggest loves of my life. And without me doing hardware, if it hadn't been for my knowledge of a 2-nail cable cord and this, I wouldn't have two of the most handsome, drop-dead gorgeous men in my life who I love more than life itself. So this Christmas, I am grateful for them. I'm grateful for hardware, and I'm grateful for the surprising things that being outside and being in the right place and the right time, as Tucker Carlson has been saying, can bring. So happy holidays, everyone. I am grateful for you, and I'm grateful for all the work you're doing, and I am thrilled about what you're about to do out there in the wonderlands of light that you're about to create. Can't wait to see it, no matter what it is, no matter where you are. Go to it. Love you guys. See you for Insider Movies. Bye. Oh, check out these movies, and please donate down below. I'll see you guys around the bend. That's right. Yes, I need to remind you guys, right? Boss don't share the money, right? I earn it. I work for it. I haven't said that in a really, really long time, and I'm proud of that, and they're really proud of that, and I've been doing a good job of that. I'm really, really proud of that. I'm really, really proud of that. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you're sick and everything like that, when you're sick and it all goes into that. But like I said, like I love working for what I have, and I love having that tree. Like, I feel really good about that. I feel really good about earning the money I have for that tree. And I don't want, I wouldn't be the person I am if my friends, if I kept, you and I both know if my celebrities were like handing me money, I wouldn't be who I am today, would I? They wouldn't respect me. We wouldn't have the same relationship. We wouldn't be equals. I'd be some charity case. And I'm not a charity case. I'm not. I'm their friend. And I like it that way. I love it that way. So, if this video was valuable to you and you know it'll change your life, go ahead and give a donation down below. And I love you so much. And go ahead and watch these videos and have an amazing, amazing week. I love you so much. I've learned more about love this last year. You guys have taught that to me. Thank you. Have an amazing, amazing holiday season. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.